Okay, so I got a chance to look at the document you sent me before the appointment. So it seems like your neurological symptoms are like acting up, and you think it may be related to the past fast, right? That's the gist of it.
That's an idea. I really don't know.
So you're doing the 3-day fast just to promote that whole autophagy thing we talked about,
Right.
right? So
Hmm.
when you did the fast, like you didn't do any ketones, you didn't do anything. Like it seems like you were miserable all the way throughout it. You made it difficult.
Yeah, I mean, the first 2 days were okay. Third day got pretty rough, and I just wanted to try it without the first time to see how it would go. And
Yeah.
yeah, it was pretty rough. I mean, I could do it, but it wasn't easy by any means.
Okay. So, like for example, when I was going through this, okay, you put here since your last appointment, which parts of your treatment protocol, 3-day fast, low FODMAP diet, increased short chain fatty acids, waiting on sleep steady, perfect, and coronary arteries calcification scan, okay. And then, but persistent symptoms now, the key thing, short, fused, irritable, like the whole limbic thing, right? Can happen anytime during the day when feeling my brain is stressed and I'm
Yeah.
feeling overwhelmed. Okay. And they say my brain symptoms seem to have increased. There's no noticeable event that triggered them. They've been around since March. So the past 2 months.
Yeah, I didn't really notice them too much, but then Maddie was saying that she kind of noticed it a little bit, just like less patience and a little bit. That was the main thing she said. And then really over the last few weeks, I started just noticing like I would get irritable and just
Yeah.
really, really way less patience than usual.
Well, she would be the most accurate person to ask. When you're in it, you don't even notice it, you know?
Yeah.
And then to trigger some overwhelm, thinking about something complicated. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I know for sure that's when it comes up. It's when there's a lot of stimulation and I am trying to think.
Yeah. Okay. Overall measure levels, exercise, allergy, stress, etc., all pretty stable. Morning fasting, stress my body, cause some issues, or possible doing keto. Okay. And then you did the fast April 21, and then symptoms started sometime in March, right?
Yeah. So they've been going on mildly noticeable since then. And I mean, our son was born end of January too. But at the time, I didn't. I mean, I don't feel that stressed about him,
Right.
or like I don't really have any obvious stressors in my life right now over the past few weeks, and that was kind of something that threw me for a loop because in the past I had the wedding and then we had our son, and now it's like we're getting in a pretty good schedule and there's not anything obvious that's stressing me out externally.
Now, I'll tell you, this is like your brain region localization form, which remember, like the big picture is like we think you've had from all those football, head traumas, you had some injury to the different regions, specifically your frontal cortex. You had a lot of symptoms. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
your initial one was way worse. I looked it up. Your first one you did in
Yeah.
2022, like you were much worse.
Yeah. Okay.
Even though you feel like, you know, and this
Yeah, it doesn't feel as bad as that. I mean, I'm not getting like as angry. It's more just irritable, so that's good for sure.
okay. So overall, just so you know, like when you look at brain recovery after injury and kind of switching into a recovery phase versus a deterioration phase, because brain injuries can create an inflammatory response, like a forest fire, and then spread over a period of time. That's the whole post-traumatic encephalopathy, where you get injury and the inflammation just gets worse and worse over time, and all the types of symptoms. If you kind of look at your initial response to now, I mean, you're heading in the right track. You're doing things
Yeah.
you can to mitigate that. Now, the unfortunate thing is you're having these persistent symptoms right now. We got to figure out what's causing that. And if we were able to, let's say if you were to fill this out before April, like in February, would you say it would be better than this, or this is just always kind of like this?
Yeah, it was better than that. Which
So
is kind of why it caught me by surprise because there wasn't any obvious cause.
yeah, and still nothing changed with your GI function yet, right?
No, it's pretty much been the same since then.
Okay. I mean, as long as you stay on a FODMAP diet, take some short chain fatty acids, you're functioning okay.
Yeah, I mean, I still get a little bit of burping or bloating occasionally, but it's not at all what it was before.
Okay, perfect. And we're hoping like your frontal lobe integration happens better, your gut motility, your enteric nerve plexus starts to improve as you bring it access improves over time. That's kind of the big picture, but in the short picture, you have to follow whatever you need to follow to have the best digestion you can.
Yeah.
And then also, if you look at your brain region localization from now on this temporal lobe area, before, um, let me move to the next page. You got a bunch of symptoms here,
Hmm.
and then that's totally better.
Yeah.
Overall, like if you look at your initial when you fill that to now, like you're doing a lot better.
Yeah.
With brain injuries that have post-traumatic encephalopathy, like if you check every year, they're getting worse.
Right.
And then family notices the personality changes and all these other things, and then the whole limbic response. So okay, now the other then looked at your metabolic assessment form just to get
Mhm.
the updated view of what's happening here. And it seems like most of your gastrointestinal symptoms following the guidelines of FODMAP and the dietary protocols you're doing with short chain fatty acids, and they seem to be keeping your GI symptoms in bay.
Mhm.
If you went and had a bunch of fermented foods and breads and stuff, you probably wouldn't do so well. But
Right.
but at least you can know how to control and maintain your ideal health
Yeah.
while you're dealing with that. Okay, so let's talk about the key thing now. The interesting thing was when I did your initial workup with you. When I did your initial workup with you, it was like, hey, this doesn't make sense. Your frontal lobe is what's injured because you had all these frontal lobe examination findings and you had the clear symptoms of it. And you had some like medial temporal lobe, but those symptoms pretty much seem to have resolved. So that's really good.
Which ones?
Medial temporal lobe,
Which ones were those? The
those are like memory. I'll show you
oh, the one on the side.
these ones. Confusion about dates, passage of time or place, difficulty remembering events, difficulty remembering names. That's what you initially put. Are those improved?
Um, yeah, I mean, I don't notice them really. Yeah.
Okay. So in any case, it was like, well, what do you when people have frontal lobe issues, you always go, well, why aren't you recovering? And it was
Mhm.
like, okay, maybe you're not getting enough fuel to your brain, maybe you're overworking it, and then we had you go, Toby, take some breaks. Like you don't
Yeah.
want to exceed your metabolic
Yeah.
rate, and then kind of go from there. And that's might be what we're dealing with now. Are you,
Right.
if your workload has your period of time increased,
Maybe a little bit, but I don't, it doesn't seem like it's been, so just the total number of time, you mean, not necessarily
total amount of time, like we're doing executive functions, planning, organizing.
I mean, maybe.
Okay,
Yeah.
honestly, that could be the only thing
Right.
that you need to put it over the edge. So, like,
Yeah.
injured neurons have, a metabolic capacity that's different than the rest of the brain. Okay,
Yeah.
so when you look at your brain region localization form, like you don't have any symptoms anywhere except the frontal lobe.
Right. Mhm.
So then the question is, well, how much endurance does area have? So areas that have injury have less protein machinery, less healthy cells, less mitochondria. They don't have the ability to go on for long periods of time. And
Right.
the thing is like the things you do at work should help you rehabilitate your brain,
Yeah.
unless it's too much.
Yeah.
Just like if someone had a weak biceps, bicep curls should help them, but if they do way too much, they're not gonna recover, right?
Yeah.
So it's the part of like what we needed to do was to try to get you what we call it getting limbic, which is like when you get when you get unstable, have the symptoms you have, get more irritable than usual, and all that stuff. So the most common things would be like new stimuli that would do it, or you're just exceeding your metabolic rate. So new stimuli that really would flare this would be like flashing sounds, flashing noises, any of that kind of exposure.
No. I mean, just outside of having a newborn, I mean, he's makes all kinds of noises.
Yeah, but is it knowing you or bothering you, or
So like noises bother me just in general if I'm already kind of in that state of
limbic state?
stress and feeling like pressure up here, then yeah, I get that's when I get irritable is when there's a lot of stuff going on. Like I can usually focus on like one thing at a time, but there's more things going on, and especially auditory, those do stress me out.
Okay, so all right. So what's when we first met, we started like this develop a treatment plan. Part of the treatment plan was to take breaks throughout the day and you were going for a walk and you're doing things. Um how many okay, before we did that, how many hours were you working straight on the computer or at work or you work at home, right?
Yeah, I don't know. It just fluctuates all over the place.
But then but there were some extended periods of time, I'm sure, like any
Yeah.
person running a business. Okay. And then we had you like kind of take breaks.
Mhm.
And were you doing that?
Lately, you mean?
No, in the past.
Beforehand, no, I mean not really. Yeah,
Okay.
it was definitely we switched it up, and I was definitely more stressed at work then too. And like now I don't really feel that stressed about work. And I mean, I'm taking lots of breaks, just watching Finn throughout the day and just doing different things. But there is still a lot of mental planning and executive function, even just outside of work. Like we're planning a trip right now. And so, I mean, there is just other stuff that still,
It's too much. In addition to your work, you mean?
yeah,
Okay. So I don't
it's
think
just
it's
weird because I
necessarily
don't
stress.
feel stress per se, like brain stress about those things, but
Mm.
maybe it's just like the cumulative effect.
Yeah, we're not, and then we're not really looking at stress. We're looking at like anything that causes organizing, planning.
Right.
Once again, these events, these are what's going to fatigue you: organizing, planning, um, making decisions, initiating, finishing tasks
Mhm.
that require a lot of attention, staying focused on the topic for a period of time.
Yeah.
More of these things you do,
Mhm.
the more likely is going to fatigue, and then you're going to be limbic.
Right.
Your frontal lobe, one of the main functions of your frontal lobe, besides executive functions, is your frontal lobe projects back way. They call frontal striatal pathways to dampen your limbic system. And the limbic system is your fight or flight system. And when it's not suppressing them as well as it can, people get very reactive to sound, light. They get very irritable. They can even
Mhm.
get violent. I mean, you know where you're at, but you know, because those are limbic responses is animalistic. So um, I think you might have, so it sounds like you're fatiguing your frontal lobe.
Yeah.
That would be the first thing. You're fatiguing your frontal lobe. And is are the stuff that you're doing now with planning and all that stuff ever going to end? Do you think it's going to stop soon, or what do you think?
I mean, with work, that's just like a lot of what I do, so it is hard. What about like recovery? I mean, we talked about doing breaks, and that
Yeah.
seems to, in fact, does like taking one full day off of just trying to like do no, was that like a good kind of recovery, or what would that look like? Or is it more like a,
Those are all, yeah, let's talk about that. So one of the first things is like, okay, you have what you do, you gotta do what you gotta do. I understand. Like trust me, I totally know about pushing yourself too hard when it's not healthy and you're doing your things. It's just
yeah.
sometimes like whatever you gotta do, especially if you're running your own business and doing everything, right? Okay.
Mhm.
Well, I think um you're gonna have to experiment with different things and see how they go. Um I know for me when I was like traveling and teaching all over the country years ago, when no one even did anything online. It was like I had to have one day off to recover. And I just knew like for me it was always Monday. I always knew if I had Monday off, I would function. Have you ever tried something like that or what?
Yeah, and that's what's frustrating is we actually just before the 3 weeks before this kind of started, we had just got on a little vacation for like 4 days, and I did a little bit of work, and I thought I would come home and be recovered, and it seemed like it was worse.
Yeah.
And it could have just been coincidence or whatever, but yeah,
Okay. So let's talk about like things you can do to support your brain endurance, things you might want to do if you in the period. But you just have to have this consciousness of what your total like
yeah,
executive function load is. So
yeah.
if you can find ways to limit your executive function load, you may want to incorporate it. And if you're not taking breaks, maybe you should take some breaks. Um, so the other thing too is like you can get blood flow to. You're still going to the gym and exercising.
Well, I actually haven't been able to do that as much lately, so that
Okay,
may be part of what's
that
going
might
on.
be a big part of it, because one of the things is like your frontal lobe is like your prefrontal cortex here is where all your executive functions come in, and if you move back a little bit more, that's really where your motor function comes in.
Mhm.
And sometimes you just need to like let your prefrontal rest and let your other areas of your frontal cortex work because it'll still provide blood supply and blood flow and nutrients to your brain to help recover. And of course, it has effects on stress, but I'm just talking about the frontal part of it. Like that might be one of the key things like you got to think about. Like you're not going to the gym at all and used to go like every afternoon, right? Or in the evening, or was
I
it?
used to go like, yeah, 4 days a week, but since he's been born like only maybe twice.
Was it something you can put into your family schedule?
Yeah, we can do it. It's not that.
You
What
feel
and
guilty about it?
any type of exercise is good. I mean, and like time frame or just enough to get the blood flowing
Best
or
thing
like,
for you would be exercise where you do not have to think. Like just
right,
show up,
right.
just show up and do it. Like a place where you can go and someone just tells you what to do, or you just have an app and you just follow it. Like for you to sit down and go, I'm going to do this many sets. Like
Right.
it would be opposite of what we want.
Right. Okay. Got it.
Random running, not thinking about how many distance you need to go, what speed, whatever.
Okay.
Just anything where you're not doing any planning, organizing.
Yeah.
you know that could
Yeah.
have a huge difference in your brain endurance throughout the day because you still want constant blood supply and blood flow there. And
Yeah.
your exercise, it does help with all types of growth factors and recovery. Okay, so that's that could be pretty clear, and that happens a lot when parents have kids. Like
Mhm.
they get far in front of the routine, and then there's like the kid you got to both take care of,
Yeah.
figure out
Yeah.
how to do it.
Yeah.
Um, Madison's okay with you going to the gym, or
Yeah. She'll be fine with
it'd
it.
be fine. As long as you guys know what the new schedule is or stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So that could be one big part of it. The other thing is like when you do get totally overloaded, what are you doing? Are you getting a chance to recover or not? That recovery being to get away from stimuli, get away from
Yeah. That's usually what I do. Yeah. Or I'll tell Maddie just like can't talk right now and just like try to not have it, not any new information or no thinking.
yeah,
And that works. And that's at that point, it's usually fine when it gets that bad.
yeah. Okay. Um so that I mean there's not much to do with other than reduce your when you have this kind of pattern to reduce your work within your neuron metabolic endurance or metabolic capacity. And then if you have been exercising, which is going to help you recover, you're not anymore. That could be a big factor. When did you stop going to the gym regularly? Right after your child was born?
Yeah. I mean, that
January?
kind of correlates.
That's correlated. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now let's talk about the fast. Are you going to do another fast, or is that just miserable for you?
I'm definitely open to it. I wanted to get your thoughts on it. I mean, I know that it's hard, and I'm open to doing that. I guess my concern was just stressing my body or brain out. I don't know if
Yeah. And you may have
that
like done that. You really may have like had not enough endurance, and then you had a lot of things on your plate because you're in a normal situation. You have a certain amount of neuron endurance, neuron metabolic capacity. But your neuron
Mhm.
metabolic capacity depends upon like how much connections you have and how healthy the mitochondria are. It still needs fuel. So if you go into like hardcore fasting where you just do water, uh,
Yeah,
that you're and you still have the same load, it could definitely fatigue your brain. You may have not recovered from your fast.
like still, you mean? Yeah.
That does happen to people after brain injuries. They just get some kind of taxing event, and it takes weeks to recover.
And is that an okay thing or like something that I should am not ready for a fast yet kind of thing?
Yeah, don't do another. I guess think about it. Don't do another fast yet. But next time you do it, you need to take like ketone salts all the way through.
Okay. Yeah.
Don't be a champion. Like your goal is to provide fuel for your brain. Just be anti-inflammatory. As long as you don't have the goal is to get you into autophagy states based on it, like what we understand with animal models, right? And getting into autophagy is not going to be thrown off with ketones, but you want fuel for your brain. Like you don't
Yeah.
want to have it totally shut down.
Yeah.
So you basically want to take ketone salts, all throughout the day. You want to take electrolyte support
Yeah.
throughout the day, and I would definitely, if you do it again, please do that.
Yeah. That was my plan was to try it. If I do it again, was to do the ketone salts.
Ketone salts throughout the day. Yeah. Yeah. Let's make sure we're not missing anything here. Yeah. So it's typical, like people do a fast, and then the next week they feel a difference in their brain function in a positive way.
Yeah.
Yours kind of went the negative way,
Yeah. Potentially. I mean,
potentially. Potentially, overall, you're still way, way better than you were a year ago. You know,
yeah.
and you figured out a way to at least control your GI symptoms, so you don't have any ongoing persistent symptoms.
Yeah.
Even access symptoms. Okay. Look, overall, look at this. This is so good. Your symptoms are so nice in your questionnaire forms. I'm just looking at your questionnaire.
Hmm.
Okay. All right. So I think the best strategy would be: do you use ketones when you get brain fatigue?
Right now, no.
You should do that too.
Okay.
So like you have exogenous ketones.
So I bought, there's a new brand out there. I bought some. Have you seen it? It's called
I can't look it
Ketone
up.
IQ.
I just what is it called?
Ketone IQ.
IQ.
And
Okay,
they're supposedly ketone diols instead of the other ones. I don't know. I just had bought that.
it's fine as long as it has butyrate. It
Yeah.
has butyrate. Okay. So
But yeah, I can get the other ones too. And then I tried those ones, but they tasted the ones are horrible. But I can do it for fast. That's no problem.
yeah, this should be fine. Sure, no reason. Let's take a look at the ingredients.
People were even taking those with outside of fasting too as well. So
Yeah, cool. Yep, you can do that. That's no problem.
yeah.
So you might want to. So okay, when you are you stabilizing your blood sugar level?
Yeah, so I was in keto since
Yeah.
I did the fast, and it's pretty easy for me. So I just kind of stayed in it for a while. And I noticed my body at least was enjoying it, but I didn't know, could that be stressing my brain out, or it shouldn't, right? It should be the opposite.
I don't think no, it has the opposite. It's anti-inflammatory effect. Now you can have your ketone levels drop, just like you can get hypoglycemic, you can get like hypoketonemia.
Hmm.
Um, and that's why, like, if you do feel down, you may want to take some ketones. So
Hmm.
taking some ketones when that happens. And if it is working, if it is like your ketone levels are down, as soon as you take some ketones, boom, you'll notice a big change in energy.
Well, that's been happening sometimes because I can go a lot longer without eating while I'm on keto. And when I do eat, sometimes I will still feel a little bit more energy. And I didn't realize that was a thing.
That may be another reason why your metabolic endurance is not optimal. You may be going too long without eating. So you're in a fasting state, ketones, but your brain needs a lot of fuel. So, if even though you're feeling it that way, it's always a red flag if you eat and then all of a sudden you feel dramatically better. Then
Gotcha.
that means your ketone levels are low. That doesn't matter what the readings are because your readings could be 1.5, 2. It's not going to always correlate. And you're measuring ketones through blood, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So your blood ketone
So
levels.
even on keto, if I eat and feel better, it still could mean that I wait too long without eating or
Yeah. So you may want to start eating more frequent snacks, uh, like high quality, high fat snacks. I don't know, whatever you like, avocado or whatever you like to use.
yeah.
And then, are you doing any snacks now? Like, what's your meal intake throughout the day
Well,
now?
I just switched off keto because I wanted to try that and just see if that made a difference.
Did it?
No, basically they feel the same.
You prefer to be on keto or not?
I think it's nice to do it every once in a while. I mean, it's just hard. It's a little hard after a while with
Yeah, I think
this
it's
type
done.
of food.
Okay, so with neurological recovery, any kind of injury, the most important thing is to get your for brain is to get fats and proteins in. Okay,
Mhm.
those are the key things. So protein intake, how much protein intake do you think you're having?
I
Because
would imagine plenty. What was that?
you're getting plenty.
Yeah, I mean, I'll eat like usually meat for 3 meals a day.
Okay,
So
so that's good. And then you're getting healthy, diverse fats. Even if you're not in keto, that's fine. Like you just gotta
yeah,
get. Okay.
yeah,
Then the
Mhm.
other key thing will be the frequency when you're eating, and you don't want
yeah,
your blood sugar drop.
yeah. I need to manage that a little bit better. I think I do it when I'm not in keto, but I think when I was in keto, I would go 6 hours sometimes without eating, and yeah, and then I would think I would feel it.
6 hours, not of sleeping time, but conscious time.
Yeah, like awake, just because I wasn't even that hungry. I think.
Yeah, but then you would eat, and then you would feel better.
Yeah,
Yeah, so so probably a combination of blood sugar being low, not having that exercise compensation,
yeah,
the fast kind of fatigue your brain.
yeah,
But to recover, you don't have to be in keto, but just get healthy protein and fats like you're already doing. You should be snacking enough where you don't feel energized after you eat.
yeah.
It's just kind of something you're doing routinely. You might even want to set your alarm off. It doesn't have to be big snacks, whatever what works best for you. And just monitor your symptoms. If you feel like your brain function is going to get back to eating, then just go a little bit sooner, and then just dial that in. And maybe for the first couple of weeks, you just set your alarm to go off, maybe every 2.5 hours or 3 hours, whatever. What do you think you need? 2 hours, 3 hours?
Yeah, like 3 hours probably good.
So eat and then just set it up for the next 3 hours, and just even if you're
Yeah,
not hungry, just have something
yeah,
small. It could be
yeah,
like quarter of an avocado with some olive oil on it or something like that.
Yeah.
And then, or it could be a ketone drink or some whatever you want. Okay.
Okay.
And then, and then if you can take some breaks, that'd be great. And if you can go to the gym and get back to your routine, and I think if you continue doing what you're doing, because you're still getting executive function, you just can't get it at a rate that exceeds your function.
Hmm.
And you have
Okay.
the metabolic fuel and support you need to get there. They're going to continue to see your frontal lobe symptoms go down,
Yeah.
just like they have in the past year. And then as your frontal lobes continue to go down, you're going to be less vulnerable to these like limbic patterns when your frontal lobe gets fatigued and executive function. How much is hard to say,
Yeah.
but you're still very young. You still have a lot of potential for neuroplasticity. Um, so, so the key thing is eat more frequent, every 2 to 3 hours. Look at your symptoms of improved brain function. If that happens, eat sooner. Go back in your exercise protocol, get
Hmm.
that in, and that's really the main thing. I would do that before, get back to 100% before you're doing their fast. You're doing their fast again, do ketone salts,
Yeah.
electrolytes all the way through, and go from there.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, will you send me an email like in a month? Let me know how you're doing.
Yeah.
Just to give you some updates, and then from there we can kind of decide when we need to follow up. But I think once you get on track with that, and you're no longer fatiguing, it really is a matter of time to just continue your brain not being fatigued and overstimulated and getting the fuel in, not having any gut brain disruptions from things causing bloating, distension, neuroinflammation, all that stuff, and then just staying on that for a period of time. And then maybe like a year from now, you see your brain region localization form symptoms totally different, your frontal lobe different, and you're not as vulnerable to being limbic from using from executive functions.
Right.
Anything else?
One thing that is kind of a weird thing, but sometimes when I get like the mild symptoms in my brain, seems like, I mean, I call it like brain stress, but limbic or whatever they
Yeah.
call it. I feel like sometimes my brain almost has a hard time kind of shutting off. And do you have any, I mean, I know we said like maybe exercise, that's a good option. Anything else that would be like, so physical stuff is good? I mean, like what helps kind of turn that part off?
Only thing is physical distraction.
Physical distraction.
Like you play ping pong,
Yeah.
move around, just start walking, go for a run.
Yeah.
If you let your mind just have its go at it, you're gonna go crazy.
Stop. Yeah.
You have to almost like burn off your catecholamines, get some movement in. What you're actually doing with complex movements, the more complex the movements, the better it's going to be. Is
Oh. So like tennis would be good then, or
would be good, moving would be good, running would be the easiest, fastest way. Just going for a jog, but that activates the basal ganglia inhibition pathway.
okay.
It's what we have to do with people that have severe anxiety attacks and movement disorders. We have to get them when they get their system happening all the time. We have to get them to move. There's no cognitive thing you can do. There's no supplement you can take. It's just get some movement in.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense actually, because I feel like sometimes I get almost like just like addicted to like my brain working and it's hard to shut it off kind of thing. It's like a weird to
Yeah.
describe it.
And what you might notice is when you go to the gym and start working out, even on days that doesn't happen, like that might you may notice it. I should say you may notice it happening less frequently.
Yeah. Yeah.
If it happens again, just get some movement in, or play tennis, or
Yeah.
do something that activates movement and coordination.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good.
Okay.